becoming a madam to the stars of Hollywood, the wealthy businessmen, and of course the politicians, is all fun and games until the party comes to a screeching halt due to a disgruntled employee. Does the punishment fit the crime? Or did they throw the book at her because she wouldn't give up those powerful clients? It's all about the money trail, baby.
I got something between my legs that'll make a dead man come. Oh, that. I got something between my legs that'll make a dead man come. Oh, that. I'm gonna turn back my mattress and let you all my springs. I want you to find me, daddy, till the bell do ring. Oh, daddy, I want you to shade the drive.
Hello, my name is Summer, and this is Paying for It. Thank you for being here for episode 25. I want you to buckle up for this episode because we don't have to go too far into history to find today's madam. In fact, today we'll be talking about a madam you may recognize. Today's queen is still alive and well. We will be getting into her glamorous rise to being Hollywood's madam and all the legal troubles that came crashing down on her when she refused to hand over her little black book. We will be getting to all of that and more today, but before we get to that, if you haven't already, please consider liking, following, or subscribing wherever you're listening. It would help out a lot on Paying for It. And if you're really vibing with me and my spicy takes on history, I highly recommend you jump on over to Patreon, subscribe to my show, and get access to my episodes early and the video versions. You don't want to miss out. Other than that, hello, how are you doing today? I hope you're doing well. I actually ran really late on this episode. I am so sorry. It was a weird one to research. Someone that is still alive isn't like 100 years dead, you know? It's been an interesting research and write. So I ran really late on it. Yeah. And to see the way media kind of talks about her and what she's done on her, like what it's done on her mental health, it just was an interesting thing to go through. So it's safe to say we're going to have a very unique episode today. Also, I went to Pennsylvania this past week, so I got pretty behind. It was kind of an impromptu little trip, so I didn't plan for it very well. And then with life getting involved, I just accidentally missed 2 weeks. I'm very sorry. It was not my intention. And then I don't know if I broke it. I kind of just misplaced a part of my tripod. So, once I thought I was getting into the flow of things, life decided, hey, now, this is getting too easy. We can't let that happen. That's all right. So anyways, I'm super sorry that I ghosted y'all for 2 weeks. I hope you'll forgive me. It was not my intention, but that is how life goes. Anyways, Pennsylvania was a lot of fun. Lots of good food. I mean, anywhere you go when you travel, you should try their food. And just certain places have better food than others, I would say. In Pennsylvania, you got some good food and you've got some great vibes. A ton of freaking history, and you know that's what I'm about. And I totally attempted my hand at a vlogging little trip. It was super adorable and super unique to who I am as a person, but I will say I learned a lot, but I will definitely be keeping that one to myself. One, because it was so silly. And two, because the history for what I was wanting to say and show, it's just not something visually there anymore. And it's not something they culturally embrace, I would say. But don't you worry. My Madam Bessie Jones will definitely be getting her spot on paying for it. Although they had a ton of history and it was an amazing experience to enjoy, I really loved getting to stay downtown Carlisle and walking around, exploring their history and learning about. I do enjoy because they had Miss Molly Pitcher, who they celebrated in that town, which was a very unique woman to their culture, or their history, I should say. And she's very celebrated throughout that town, and I really enjoyed it. I got to be in nature, and I absolutely was obsessed with that because, yeah, I am a nature girl through and through, and I live in the city right now. So you don't get to see a lot of nature where I'm at. Hopefully that'll be changing soon. Yeah, and other than that, we've just been dealing with a ridiculous apartment and 3 wild cats who missed us dearly, but we miss them too. But yeah, I definitely miss them, and I know when we're gone, they're very much missing us. That's okay. We had a friend come and check on them. They were taken care of. I had like a lot of fun in Carlisle. It was easy to walk around and just kind of vibe out, and they have very unique liquor laws there. So you cannot weirdly sell like name brand beers in their restaurants unless you have the building liquor license, which stays with the building, not with the company. Or something like that. Maybe I don't know. It was very weird. So a lot of those local restaurants would have their own, like they would brew their own beer. And I kind of love that because it gives you a chance to try things you wouldn't normally find in like normal day-to-day restaurants around here. And so, yeah, Molly Pitcher was someone who was celebrated throughout their town. So I went to the first brewery I went to was the Molly Pitcher Brewery, and we had a couple beers there, and, you know, very good from what we had. And then we also stopped at this one place that it was a cider shop, and we got to, I did a little flight of cider, and I had fun with that. Also, I got to, on that cider, they had their Bohemian Pilsner, which I believe is like what Baltimore is like known for. If it was the same run, I think it was though, and it was really good. I really enjoyed it. Yeah. We also spent some time. We also spent some time in Baltimore because we flew into Baltimore, and Baltimore was only like a 2-hour drive to where we were staying, and it was actually less than that. We went to a really nice Italian restaurant when we flew in, and got a bottle of wine. It was delicious. Their food was so good. We were super underdressed, but you know, oh well, we just got off a plane. What else, you know, give us a break. But yeah, so lots of food, lots of drinking. Well, not lots of drinking, but a moderate amount of drinking. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. Miss the nature already, that's for sure. Okay, so today's queen took the sex world by storm, and by her early 20s, she was running a multi-million-dollar company, providing love and companionship to Hollywood's elites, very quickly making her first million and earning herself the title of the Hollywood's Madam. However, it came crashing down around her when one of her girls became disgruntled and turned on her, running to the cops and bringing down a queen and all of her bees with it. So with that, you know what time it is. Grab yourself a cocktail, a mocktail, coffee, whatever you fancy. Today, I forgot to grab myself a drink. I'm going to go grab one because I prepared my strawberry lemonade. Let me go grab it. I also forgot to, I accidentally froze it, but I pulled it out in time. I think that it's now like a slush. But yes, grab whatever you're drinking. I hope whatever you have, it's delicious and you're enjoying it. Like I said, today I have a strawberry lemonade, slushed. And yeah, cheers, 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 cheers. And let me introduce you to Heidi Fliess. Born Heidi Lynn Fliess on December 30th, 1965 to parents Paul M. Fliess, a pediatrician, and a mother, Eliza Esch Flesh, a school teacher. She was born and raised in Los Feliz, Los Angeles, California. She describes her parents as intellectual hippies. She had 2 brothers and 3 sisters. Heidi will go on to talk very highly of her parents, stating that she had a very normal and pleasant upbringing. She often says that her relationship with her dad was amazing and that he gave her the world and all the tools to have a quote-unquote normal life with a normal job. However, she may have been a tad bit rebellious. Since Heidi's younger years, she showed a passion for entrepreneurship. When she was in high school, she started a babysitting ring. At first, it started with her just taking on babysitting gigs and making some money. Soon, though, as her reputation grew, she started getting more business than she could herself alone handle. Plus, being a teenager, she wasn't willing to give up all her free time. But what she could do was enlist her friends in on her business, oddly giving Heidi her first taste of what it was like to recruit and take a fee for her services. That was exactly what she did. When she couldn't herself take the babysitting gig, she would call up a friend, giving them the gig while taking a small finder's fee. Heidi had all the opportunities with a decently wealthy, healthy family who were willing to give her the opportunities to do pretty much whatever she wanted. So I'm sure it came as a bit of a surprise when Heidi decided she was dropping out of school at the age of 16. At her young age, Heidi became fascinated and interested in the sex industry. Me too, girly, me too. Often reading books about prostitution and hustling. So after dropping out of high school, she made the move to Las Vegas, where she started working as a sex worker for a bit in the City of Sin. It wasn't long, though, before she was back in LA getting her GED and being introduced to a prominent Madam Alex, at the age of 22. So at 22, Heidi came into Alex's life just at the right time because she was young, beautiful, and loved to party. Alex, she needed fresh faces for her current business because her current girls were aging out of the business or just in general wanting to retire. So again, Heidi finds herself working as a working girl for Alex. Her first big task, though, was really helping Alex recruit new ladies for the brothel. This came pretty easy for Heidi. She had the personality for it. So Heidi starts learning the ropes of the business. It isn't long before Heidi starts to think to herself, damn, I'm the reason Alex is getting all these young, beautiful women and making all of this money. Why am I working for Alex when I could be doing this for myself and making the profit? So that is exactly what Heidi decides to do. After about 3 years working for Alex, she starts branching out on her own. And oh boy, does she kill it. So it's basically like she'd been working for this madam who already had a business in LA, was pretty profitable. But at the time that Alex meets Heidi, her girls are just in general wanting to get out of the game or retiring or just kind of aging out. I mean, that's just the name of the game, the sex industry. It's weird like that. Not always, but we're speaking Hollywood in the 90s or the 80s. So, you know, it isn't a super scandal to think that girls working the sex industry in Hollywood had an age out period, even if it's disgusting to think about. So she meets this madam, and it comes at the perfect opportunity kind of for both of them, because Heidi's back in LA. She's getting her GED, but it's not like she wants out of the game. She's just starting. She's just getting introduced to it, really. And Alex, she needs young, fresh faces, and she's kind of also not in that. I mean, she's in it, but, you know, it's kind of harder as an older lady to get, like, recruit in the younger crowd because you're not often in that crowd. But Heidi is. And Heidi loves to party. She's at that age, and she's fun, and she has a big personality. So it's easy for her to start making friends and like introducing them to this lifestyle. But it isn't long before Heidi's like, why am I putting all this work in for Alex when I should just be doing it for myself? And so she's like, duh, I'm just going to do this on my own. And Heidi even says, like, at one point, like, she wishes she was a better prostitute because she wasn't very good at it. And I feel like that's probably just what she's saying. But, yeah. So she does start, like, branching out, and she starts making a killing in Hollywood. Heidi would often say that she wishes she was a better hoe because she states even her time working as a woman selling sex, she was better at the recruiting and the business side of things than actually the sex and seducing of men. Which could be true because knowing of what I know of Heidi now, she seems like a bit not awkward or shy, because that's not the case, but as if maybe sex was just never a big thing for her. Okay. So Heidi goes off on her own, and she's very quickly becomes Hollywood's number one madam. Heidi understands that, like anything in Hollywood, in order to be successful, you're going to need glamour, beauty, youthfulness, and of course, money. She recruits women into her business that are young, intelligent, and, yeah, gorgeous. All of these women were looking to meet and network with rich and famous men anyways. Heidi was just giving them the opportunity to do just that, but also make some good money while doing it. Heidi was honest with the girls. All of them knew exactly what Heidi was recruiting for and what they were signing up for when they came to work for her. They also knew that Heidi had the connections to people they wanted to be introduced to, so they were willing to become a Heidi girl. Heidi, within a few weeks, had herself a very high-end brand, charging customers upwards of $1,500 as the starting price. Heidi pocketed a finder's fee of 40% of whatever the girls made. And just off that starting price, she was making a killing. She made sure that her girls were well compensated and empowered. They only had to do what they were comfortable with doing, only what they wanted. Making sure her girls knew that if you had the ick or you were doing something for the money only and would wake up the next day feeling down or upset with yourself, don't do it. There will be more money to come. There always is. allowing her girls to say no to things they were not comfortable with sexually or with the men they were around. She also made sure her girls were safe and taken care of. She ran it like a business, but also like she was just as young as these girls, so I'm sure she had some motherly friendships involved as well. Within the first year of business, Heidi made her first million, allowing her to live this big, glamorous, powerful life at such a young age. It is pretty uncommon to be 25 buying a multi-million-dollar house in Beverly Hills, nestled in between the stars of Hollywood. Heidi now had this huge house right in the smack dab in the middle of a lot of celebrities. So she would often throw, of course, huge, extravagant parties. She often would promise that no sex was ever sold at these parties. So just because she had royalty dancing in her living room doesn't mean per se that he bought sex from her, any of her girls. It also doesn't mean that they didn't. That could go for all of the men who came through to her parties, because even though she said no sex was had at her parties, she 100% had her Heidi girls at the forefront of these parties. Okay, I also think that we can very much take all the knowledge we have learned from our past queens and the extravagant parties thrown by the madams of history, that they were used for networking events for the girls. So I feel pretty safe in saying that it may not have been true for everyone that walked through her doors, but 99% of them most likely were customers to her and her girls. Because how could they not be? These parties were major events. Booze, ladies, and of course, a lot of drugs. And even though Heidi swears that sex was never had in the house, I question the truth behind that statement as well. Either way, a lot of sex was being sold, because Heidi stated that even on her slow nights, she was still making around $10,000. And on a good night, well, at her peak, she had upwards to 500 girls working for her at a time. So you can let your imagination run wild with the type of money you think she was making. And it still probably wouldn't be the true amounts. Heidi was catering to Hollywood's elite, but it didn't just stop there. So yeah, she had Hollywood celebrities, politicians, wealthy businessmen, and royalty. We'll go more into depth of her clients a little later. But Heidi was proud to have her girls sent out nightly to the wildest events in Hollywood. But she was also proud of the fact that on any given night, she would have a Heidi's girl on at least 3 continents, and not infrequently aboard a private or corporate jet. So she is dealing with some money, okay? Some people who have money, some companies that have money. And I think that's an important little note to make, that she says private or corporate jets. I think this whole thing comes into question later, so I'm getting a little ahead of myself. But it always comes down to the money trail. So as I said, you can let your imagination run wild with the amount she was making and the men she was serving. Either way, she was doing so well for herself, making sure she was living it up, spoiling herself by driving in the newest and nicest cars, wearing name brands, and just overall being flashy. It would be hard not to when you're pulling that kind of money in your early 20s, baby. Come on. We all been there. Even just coming into a little cash when you're younger, you're spending that shit, okay? You're having a good old time. You're partying. You're drinking. It's just how life goes. Though, unfortunately, it was all about to come all crashing down on all of them very, very soon. Because, mind you, this was the late 80s into the early 90s that Heidi began her business. At this point, selling sex by the hour wasn't generally accepted as it used to be. As we were learning through this journey and paying for it, that in history, prostitution was an open and accepted part of our culture. Quote unquote, proper society accepted it as an almost necessary evil. It was later, as the world moved towards a more moral and conservative world, that prostitution got pushed underground. Sex workers were forced then to work in a more dangerous and less visible ways, especially during the Tough on Crime campaign in the 80s. So, anyways, Heidi, her girls, and her clients all knew that it was illegal to purchase sex, and that at any point things could go sideways. And unfortunately, that was exactly what was about to happen. One of Heidi's girls decided this was no longer the life for her. She wanted out. Alexandra Datic was a woman who worked for Heidi for a bit as a way to make ends meet as she was attempting to break out in the actress and modeling world. When Alexandra felt that she had saved up enough money to leave, she let Heidi know her plans. Alexandra showed her newly put together portfolio. When she didn't get the reaction she wanted from Heidi, she got a little upset and maybe a little weirdly jealous or something. 'Cause, yeah, it's so weird going forward on Alexis's motives on why she does what she does. Now, don't get this twisted. Heidi never once said she couldn't leave. Now, in no way was Heidi keeping her trapped in some sick, twisted human trafficking rings. As I said in the beginning, Heidi was open and honest with her girls. They knew exactly what they were getting into, and they were free to say no, even to her, at any point. They did not have to stay. So when Alexandra came to her with this portfolio, I really think that she didn't give her an excited or like good for you, or, you know, the reaction she got wasn't the one she wanted. So she just didn't show excitement towards Alexandra leaving, which, I mean, okay, whatever. Sorry to you that she didn't give you that, like, please don't go or whatever kind of emotion you were looking for. But on top of that, Heidi had big plans for herself as well and talked about them openly, how she wanted to become America's next great madam and or pimp. For some reason, Alexandra felt that wasn't okay. It was fine that she collected the $10,000 nightly paycheck to get her ends met, but it wasn't okay for it to continue on without her. Almost as if she was a bit jealous that the money would continue rolling without her being a Heidi's girl. So, what does she decide to do? She decides she must turn to the police, feeling it was her duty to put an end to the business. Now, don't get me wrong. If Heidi was some like evil, vile woman who was holding girls against their will and or participating in human trafficking, we would be having a very different conversation regarding Heidi. However, she didn't. All of her girls were of age, knowingly and happily getting into the business with her. It seems weird in all of the articles. Even in an interview with Alexander, she never said that Heidi was not allowing her to leave, just that she felt as if Heidi wasn't happy with her wanting to leave, and that she had big plans on being a big name in the sex world. So for me, it seems as if this was a real jealous move on her part. She admits that she made $10,000 nightly, plus jewelry and plane tickets to go all around the world. She states in her interviews years later that selling sex wasn't something she had wanted to do, but at 20, it allowed her to pay her rent while trying to land her big break. Not uncommon for a lot of the girls working under Heidi. It just seems as if, though, that for Alexander, the motive for turning to the police wasn't anything good-natured or under the guise she was saving other women from such a vile person. So Alexander, what it seems, gets frustrated that she doesn't get the reaction she's wanting from Heidi. And then on top of that, Heidi's like, I have big plans for myself in this world. And Alexander, for some reason, just is like, no, that can't be. I don't know. It just seems weird to me. I don't know. You guys tell me what you think, because like, to me, it seems weird that she's just like, no, fuck you. You weren't happy for me when I'm leaving, and you plan on continuing on with your business while I'm gone? No fucking way. Can't be. I'm going to the police. Because it was like, she doesn't have any good, like, she just knows, like, going to the police, and she's like, hey, this girl is selling sex. Like, she just knows that's gonna raise some eyes, especially like if she starts throwing out some of her clients' names, who are probably prominent businessmen at the very least, you know? So it's a really shitty thing to me, like, that she was doing. But you guys let me know. You think she had the right to go to the police? Or is this like a weird act of jealousy? Anyways, she goes to the police and spills everything. All of Heidi's secrets. Now, to be honest, this probably wouldn't have been such a big thing had the names Alexandra been spilling not included prominent political figures. So, in 1993, what starts out as another glamorous day for the Hollywood madam soon turns into a shitstorm as she is arrested and taken into custody under the charges of tax evasion and pandering. Now, this is when things get a little juicy. See, when she was arrested, she had no warning or any time to prepare. This honestly was supposed to be just a normal work day. So she had some damning evidence of some of her clientele on her. So when she gets arrested, she realizes now she is facing two different cases. She was being charged locally and federally. Locally, she was found guilty. Locally, we will just tell you she was found guilty and sentenced to 3 years. However, that case is quickly overturned due to the fact that it was found that there was a lot of jury tampering. So she's like quickly released. Not that she was out of the clear after that either, because she was still facing these federal charges. But it is kind of weird. Like, what the heck was going on with that jury that they were, like, what, taking bets or something? It was, like, it was weird. And it was also weird that the state just decided not to try her again. I guess it was because, like, they knew, like, federally she had another case going on. But normally when a conviction's overturned like that for like jury tampering, they would retry. But I guess the state just said it wasn't worth it money wise, maybe. Now she had the big dogs to deal with, though, with the federal charges, because those are truly no joke. However, what you should know is that the FBI didn't really want her, nor did they care that she was selling sex. Yes, tax evasion is not a good, and we will get to that soon, but it also should be noted that it wasn't like she wasn't paying her taxes. It's just that maybe she wasn't paying as much as she should have been with the amount she was actually making. However, like I said, the FBI didn't really care about any of that. And they were all too willing to make it all go away. All she had to do was give up her little black book that contained all those powerful names. Now, in this case, though, her little black book just happened to be a cute little red Gucci day planner that she kept hidden away. And although the search warrants tried as they might, the FBI couldn't find it. They know for sure it existed and knew it contained very powerful names. Names that the government wanted due to rumors of that little book containing politician names. Now, we all know a sex scandal can do a lot of things for your career, and not a single one of them being good. And everything is so political, So by this point, they had already talking to a lot of people, her girls, clients that they caught, that we'll get to. Politicians' names were being thrown out. Politicians were known to associate with her. So it's a big, big thing, Oh boy, do they want that red book to make it a little juicier up in this politician games, because sex scandals can change everything. Now, here's the thing. If the red book contained politicians or just prominent businessmen, the outcome of the FBI's wanting those names would be the same, because they want to trace the money, honey, because the sex scandal has potential to change the course of history or possibly an election. So that's why I say they didn't care that Heidi was selling sex. No. They more wanted the juicy details of the men paying for the sex, where that money was coming from, who was bankrolling all these men's kinky fucking nights. That's the real issue. And like I said, they were all too willing to make it all go away for Heidi as long as she turned that book in. Heidi, though, knew the name of the game when it came to being a madam to high-profile men. You don't kiss and tell. The importance of discretion is everything in the sex world. So she refused the offer to have all of her charges dropped in order to stay classy and keep her mouth shut. And oh boy, did they come down on her hard. We'll be getting to that though. The DA needed more than just the word of a former employee, in my opinion, a disgruntled employee. That would come in the form of the damning evidence that was found on her person when being arrested. The only names that were given up when the story broke. Not to do with really Heidi giving them up, but just for the unfortunate case of bad timing. Each name on the list didn't have the same code of honor that Heidi had. Those men were all too quick to keep themselves out of trouble, each taking the deal to testify on the Hollywood Madam. So let's talk about them, shall we? The first two are definitely newsworthy, especially for the first one, especially for this time. However, the last one, well, he was headline worthy. All right. Although the DA was able to find checks from at least 10 men, they were only able to get 3 of them to talk. Let's talk sports. Or at least the former owner of the Denver Nuggets, Sidney Schlecker, was a customer of hers, testifying that he spent tens of thousands of dollars with Heidi and her girls. He only admitted to the checks that could be traced back to him, although it was believed that he had spent way more than that with Heidi and her girls. Similar testimony was given by Emmanuel Santos in court on Thursday, June 29th, 1995. The businessman and the president of Mexico's Nabisco, who admitted that he spent at least $40,000 with Fliess. He also admitted to the court that he also would often send his private jet to pick up the girls. Now, the money that was traced seemed like they were in the clear, as none of it was company's money that we know of. But it seems like at least these guys paid for it out of pocket. Last up on this list to testify was the star, the celebrity name of the list, the one that made headlines. Do you have any guess on who that may have been? Go ahead. I'll wait. Take a wild guess. That's right. Charlie Sheen, baby. Are you surprised any about that one? Yeah, me neither. In his sweaty, fidgety testimony, he testified that he had procured the services of Heidi's girls at least 27 times, identifying 7 checks given between December 1991 and February 1993. On top of that, he admitted to also paying in cash at least 20 times, and on occasion bypassing Heidi altogether and just contacting the girls himself. He would testify that he spent up to 50 grand on Heidi's girls. Heidi, though, would later state that he spent way more than that in the years he did business with her. It's rumored that he spent upwards to $300,000 at Heidi's. So, you know, they have these guys who they're able to track because, one, they find the damning evidence on Heidi's person when they pick her up. Like for Charlie Sheen, she's found with his cashier's check from him on her. So it's kind of hard when you have the evidence. And they, of course, take the deal to get themselves out of trouble, of course, and testify against her. But I think the hardest part of the trial was the fact that Heidi's dad was indicted to testify as well. See, her father may not have approved of what Heidi did, but he sure did know. And not only did he know, but he helped in many ways. When Heidi was making way more money than she could just pass off, she knew she was going to need help on managing that money. So she turned to her father for help, Dr. Paul Fliess, who helped his daughter manage her finances and business operations. He reportedly helped her set up a very sophisticated billing system and advised her on financial decisions. Her father helped her launder her money pretty much. And before you get scandalized on his behalf, get angry over the fact that his daughter dragged a decent man into trouble, it's important to note that Dr. Paul got himself into his own trouble due to overbilling insurance companies. So he wasn't too scandalized about what his daughter was doing, and he was all too willing to help her, I'm sure, for a good cut. And this was a completely separate charge that he faced, so, don't feel too bad for him, as he seemed to be okay with bending the rules when it fit his needs. So in the long run, Heidi is found guilty, and they went pretty hard on her, sentencing her up to 7 years in federal prison, which is quite the sentence for her actual charges. Luckily for Heidi, she only ends up serving 3 years. But it is known and pretty highly talked about and debated on whether she got the book thrown at her, and I believe so. I believe that they were pretty mad that she wasn't giving up those powerful names in that book so that they could make a big old scandal, because it is so true when I say they did not care that she was selling sex. And honestly, it wouldn't have gone to the trial this wouldn't have been such a big deal had they not been able to also get her on tax evasion. So, pay your taxes, kids. Anyways, what happened after she got out of jail? And what is she up to lately? Well, Heidi got out of jail and is now this infamous celebrity, which isn't what she was looking for or wanting. Of course, however, she's also now a felon. The world doesn't look at felons very kindly, especially those who also come with a neutrality that will always have the cameras looking out for her. With that came a not so graceful downfall again in the public eye when she finds herself on the other side of the court testifying against her ex-fiance Tom Sizemore. Tom Sizemore was a Hollywood actor who finds himself in a relationship with Heidi. However, though, they may have been love there, it just wasn't a relationship that was good for either one, due to riddled in drug use and a lot of drinking on both parts. This does not allow for a very healthy relationship to be nurtured. Plus, they're both kind of in weird spots. Like, Heidi's just getting out of jail. She's a felon. Like, her life is very different outside of outside of what it was before, all of this. And so she's also hooked on drugs. It is soon that Heidi finds herself sobbing on the witness stand where Tom was being charged with 16 counts of domestic violence. Sadly, that's real sad. But even now, it seems like she still has love for Tom, and it's sad. I don't know. That whole situation is very sad. But after getting out of that relationship, she then moves to Las Vegas, where she plans to open the first woman-targeted brothel. Because Nevada allows prostitution in certain counties, she wanted to open up a stud farm, baby. A brothel where the men would be the one for sale and the women would be the clients. She had the backing of some of Las Vegas's other male brothel owners. However, due to the fact that she was a felon, it became very clear that her dream was not going to become a reality with the fact that she was a felon. Las Vegas may be the city of vice, but when it comes to the very thin line of selling sex, they had very, very strict rules. And so that's just what it boils down to. There's this documentary you can watch on HBO, The Downfall of this Stud Farm, because she is pretty much told that it's not going to happen due to her felon status. So she has to let that dream lie. Since her new business venture didn't come to fruition, Heidi has been kind of low-key since then. She ran a coin-operated laundromat for a bit. Then she goes on to meet a former Las Vegas madam who begged her to take care of her parents after she passed. At first, Heidi refused. However, it seems in the end, she chose to do it and found a new passion in life. Heidi is currently living in Nevada, taking care of a house full of birds and trying to escape the media and also attempting to stay sober. She will always have the attention from her heydays. Will always follow her around. You don't get to have the glamour of the Hollywood madam and disappear when things turn sour. Not in Hollywood, baby. That, my friends, was the story of the good, the bad, the ugly, but also the glamour, the power, and freedom of Heidi Fliess. Her story is a very interesting look into the very real and still going strong underground sex business. Heidi was just unfortunate enough to get caught, be loyal to those who paid her, and do it all while knowing more than most of the men in that courtroom would be her clients if they could. Doing a story on a woman who is still alive was a very unique experience for me. It presented me with a unique challenge as well, because I experienced a really weird creator writer's block. I'm not actually sure what to call it. I got frustrated learning this story for lots of reasons. One, the justice system is broken. I know this, but damn, like, why can't we just do capitalism right? Like, hello, let a woman sell sex. Like, let women sell sex and protect them to the best of our abilities while doing it. It doesn't have to be that hard, It doesn't even have to be for you. You may find it morally wrong, but that doesn't mean we should stop people from capitalizing on something that they don't find morally wrong. I feel it is so simple, yet we always make it so complicated. And I feel for Heidi. She just got the bad end of the stick, because I truly 100% with all of my core know that this is still something that happens today. Sex sells, baby. History tells us that. History also tells us that there will always be women and men who are willing to sell it. Because they really got her on the money side of things in a white collar crime kind of way, And they did it all because she didn't give up her little red Gucci day planner with all the very important names hidden within. See, there are lots of stupid men and women, don't come for me. There are a lot of stupid people out there who do their vice proud and loud, letting their ego get in the way. That can include businessmen, a sports team owner, or even a star. There, though, are a lot of very smart, powerful men and women, don't come for me, out there who understand the rules of the game. They know how to leave no trace in their vice, except for that one little name in that one little book that all madams seem to carry. Which brings me to my last point. What would happen if a madam got caught today? Which I don't want to happen, because that would totally suck for her, and the justice system still sucks, and they would suck the whole way through, okay? But hypothetically speaking, what would happen if they used that little black book to their advantage, like some of our historical madams did? I can't help but think about Norma Wallace, who used that book as her insurance policy, and why nowadays madams keep it to themselves. Like, of course, it's good that she's not writing a tell-all book about everyone involved, and maybe one day she will, but I doubt it. But when she was in that such a situation, what would have happened had she turned that book in? Now, there are two options I think of. Like, it could have gone her way, but most likely she would have been dead. It's so sad to think of. And there's another madam that I will be doing a case on very shortly that I found, who is similar story to Heidi, but ends very, very differently. But I don't know. I just think, like, why keep the little black book, or in Heidi's case, the Gucci day planner, if you're not going to use it to your advantage? Everyone turned on her. Complications, I tell ya. What do you think? What would you do if you were in Heidi's shoes? Would you have kept that book hidden? Would you have used it to your advantage? I would like to know. Let me know. Let me know. But with that little thought, that is all I have for you today. Again, I'm sorry I went MIA on you on this one. It was just a very hard one to write, and life and the trip, and I just didn't plan well. But I am a person, and I'm learning, so I forgive me, and I hope you do too. Anyways, I hope you have an amazing rest of your night, a great week, and I will see you next week. Promise. Goodbye.
I got something between my legs that'll make a dead man come. Oh, that. I got something between my legs that'll make a dead man come. Oh.